Good morning everyone and welcome back to a brand new video of Fox Flicks on PopCross Studios. Today we're hopping into episode 3 of the book of Biunites, the Vigilants Championship, and meeting Bio-Mech Kyle. Let's hop in, see how the fight goes, and finally meet this Kyle.
Welcome to Chapter 3 of my ongoing series, The Book of Biunites. In today's episode, instead of drawing some Biunites, I'm going to be drawing some of the original human characters in this series, though in some cases merged with their Biunite partner. If you want to start this series from the beginning, I'll have the playlist linked in the cards, the description, wherever else. But as a reminder for what happened in Chapter 2, our two narrators of this story, Akaru Inoue and his dad Dai Inoue, are currently at the Global Vigilance League World Championship, watching their young friend Agama Knight, partnered with his Biunite Hodera, fight against the 5-year running world champion Freya Sparks to try and take the championship title from her. Dai and Akaru are very wrapped up in the competition and are very excited to see how it goes, despite the fact that back home there's something strange going on with their new business, the Biunite Safari and Education Center, where some of the Biunites are starting to get a little strangely aggressive. We will get back to what's going on there, but for now we need to see if Augie can get things together, because in a best of 5 matches he's already lost the first 2, so unless he can figure out a way to best Freya Sparks' brand new teleportation ability, then he ain't gonna be going home with the title. So let's see what happens, shall we? Let's go.
Hit like if you want. Subscribe if you feel like it. By the way, enjoy the show. Alright, here we go.
Watching Augie get badly trounced in the first 2 matches was pretty scary, but it didn't seem like there was much he could do against Freya's new teleportation ability. It meant his own speed didn't really matter. She could teleport right up next to him, switch to her blue resistance electricity field power to slow his movements, and just wail on him. She's not nearly as strong with that field active as when she switches to her yellow electricity, but she can switch between her powers so quick that after a few hits with her blue field, she'd switch to her yellow for one big devastating punch, then switch back before Augie could use the change to his advantage.
Ooh.
Those first 2 rounds were 2 of the shortest to ever occur in the Global Vigilance League Championship Finals.
That is true.
I believe everyone in that arena was starting to think that this much-anticipated matchup was going to end disappointingly quickly.
It's been 5 years.
I knew Augie wasn't going to let her take the win that easy. It's Augie. He said he was going to win, so I knew he was at least going to get a lot closer. In the 3rd round, he finally started showing us what he was made of again. For the first time I can remember, Augie started that match not merged with Hodera. Freya stuck to her word and didn't go easy on him. As soon as the match started, her purple electricity started sparking around her, but Augie had noticed at that point he always had at least 5 seconds after he saw the purple sparks before she was actually able to teleport. He got Hodera to back away from him while spitting an ice beam right at Augie. He held up his forearms and ice coated over them, then turned to get ice frozen all over his back. He basically made himself ice armor, then held his forearms over his head and crouched down, guarding himself as much as possible as Freya teleported right up beside him and started wailing on him again. Thankfully, as soon as she did that, Hodera started blasting her with an ice beam. She tried ducking and dodging around it while still swinging at Augie, but while she was distracted with Hodera, Augie managed to get a jab right into Freya's stomach that she wasn't ready for. It didn't do much because he was still pretty slowed down, but it did show us all that this round was going to be different.
Yeah, come on, man.
Augie felt it too. Freya got on Augie's opposite side from Hodera, so the Biunites...
He lost 2, but if he can win 2, it can finally come down to the final match. Who will win it?
Knight couldn't get a shot at her. Then she switched to her purple electricity again. Augie wasn't slowed down anymore, so he took a couple swings at her with his ice-coated arms. Freya blocked them all pretty easily, but while that was happening, Hodera was moving around to get another shot at Freya. He blasted a beam at her, and instead of teleporting out of the way, she dove and rolled to Augie's other side. She waited nearly 10 seconds before teleporting this time, but when she did, she appeared right behind Hodera, then switched to her blue resistance field. As soon as she got up close to him, though, Hodera started hissing and breathing out this icy mist all around him and Freya. She took some pretty hard swipes at the Biunite, but pretty quickly it was clear that the mist was making Freya freezing and was slowing her down almost as much as she was slowing down Hodera. Plus, Augie cracked off one of the ice shields from his forearm, grabbed the pieces of it, and started whipping them at Freya's head. Again, they slowed down once they reached her resistance field, but they were still a distraction, letting Hodera get a solid headbutt into Freya's stomach. That
Yeah,
made her
come
stumble
on
back
now.
a couple steps, just enough for Hodera to get out of her resistance field and start circling Freya, while spitting a beam of ice at the ground around her, making walls appear to trap her in. Hodera basically made a little cone prison of ice around her. Then Augie ran over and merged with Hodera and kept running around Freya, making the walls thicker and thicker. We couldn't clearly see Freya, but her blue glow from inside turned yellow. She started pounding at and cracking the ice. Her fist even burst through one time, but Augie just froze over that spot again instantly. The more she tried to bust free, the more Augie froze around her. Finally, the light from inside changed to purple. But this time, she had to wait more than 15 seconds before using her power. Finally, Freya got out, appearing across the field, trying to shake off the cold. But Augie had finally caught on. If he made her use her teleportation a bunch of times in a row early in a fight, her speed with it dropped like crazy, and it would give him way more time to see it coming and
It adds 5 seconds with each use, from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to so on and so on. Come on now, Augie.
Even footing for about 15 minutes, with Augie keeping his distance and shooting projectiles at her from afar, before Freya finally tried teleporting in close again. It took her about 9 seconds to teleport in close that time, having gotten some speed back by not using that power for a while. But as soon as she switched to a purple field, Augie froze a big cone of ice around himself. Too small for Freya to fit inside with him. He left a little hole open though and shot icy mist, so that when Freya got close and started trying to wail on the ice to break it, she was getting colder and slower before she could actually get a swing on Augie. Finally, Augie just burst out of the cone himself, pelting Freya with ice debris. He started absolutely wailing on her like she'd done to him so many times. He had both his forearms and fists shifted into armor like Hodera, and was punching her like it was the last opportunity he'd ever get.
She switched
to a resistance field, but that meant her own durability was lower, and with her slowed too, it wasn't helping much. She switched back to her yellow field to go blow for blow, but at that point, she couldn't keep up, and Augie finally knocked her out.
Yes!
We all went nuts.
Yes!
Indeed, it was far from over, as Agama would need to take another 2 matches in a row to win. But, in the least, the crowd was finally getting the match they'd hoped to see from these two finally taking to the arena.
It's been promised 5 years. A match 5 years in the making! Finally! Come on, Augie.
The fourth match was a longer one, and Freya did a better job saving her teleportation moves for ideal moments. Because she was spacing them out, she also recovered enough energy that she could do each teleportation in about 5 to 10 seconds each time. Luckily, Augie had figured out enough ways to counter them that it wasn't helping her nearly as much as it had in the first 2 rounds. Meanwhile, he was finally getting more use out of his new transformed feet skating trick. The speed he got from that, paired with his own ability to cover the arena in icy debris and tracks that Freya had to deal with, meant it seemed like he'd just have more and more of an advantage the longer the match went on. Although eventually Freya got used to the icy floors and walls and started getting good at sliding around on them herself, so it stopped being much of an edge for Augie.
Even still, the boy did manage to take round 4 for himself. And that set us up for the most tense and magnificent finale the Vigilants League had seen in years.
Come on!
Yeah, they got a full night to recover since round 5 was scheduled for the next morning. When a World Championship match goes to round 5, they always like making it a big deal and giving it its own day.
Okay, so Freya won 2, Augie won 2. It's the day of the 5th and final match. Who will win it? And will Freya become the champion for the 6th straight year, or will she fall to the boy who promised 5 years ago to be the one to bring her down and defeat her?
I barely slept that night. I was so excited to see what was going to happen. Augie and Freya both came in fresh and ready to go, and when the match started, Freya didn't even bother with her teleporting. She just went for her yellow electricity and booked it right at Augie.
Ooh,
this time, he actually used a trick Freya used to use on her opponents all the time. Sort of. He let Hodera transform his head and upper torso, then coated his arms and legs in icy armor again, and just got into defensive mode. Freya came in and started pounding away at him, but with his head, arms, and legs all covered, her blows weren't doing much. He was basically going to let her wear herself out a bit before he started taking swipes himself. As she was going, he was also breathing out more of that frosty mist to slow her down more and more. Eventually, she realized, even though she was the one landing all the hits, he was really doing more harm to her by getting her all cold and frozen.
Yeah,
She switched
come on.
to her yellow electricity, let a ton of lightning build up around her arms, and double fist pounded Augie right in his forearms as he tried to
Ooh,
block
a
her.
haymaker.
It shattered the
I
ice
think.
off him and sent him pinwheeling backwards. Thankfully, before he hit the wall, he was able to shift Hodera's form from his head down to his feet. He shot an icy track against the wall from his feet and just went back to skating around the arena.
For the next few hours,
Oh, yeah.
it was entirely unclear who would take this
I'm sorry, did you say hours? Damn!
match, as neither competitor was willing to give up any substantial ground. As soon as Agama gained an advantage, Freya would find a way to counter it, and vice versa.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's why
Dad's
this
not
took so
exaggerating
long.
when he says hours. The match literally went on for 3 hours. By the time we were coming down to the end, Augie and Freya were both obviously exhausted. After so much back and forth, taking and landing so many blows, it was like they'd each been hit by a train and run over by an elephant after finishing a triathlon. Even with Augie making the arena pretty freezing, their bodies were like sweat furnaces. Steam was coming off them as they both got to a point where they just stopped attacking, standing a couple dozen feet apart. They were just panting, their knees shaking, waiting to see what the other person was going to do next.
Who will fall?
Soon it
Who will
was
fall?
obvious that neither of them was ready to move in yet. Then, out of nowhere, Freya let out a quick, exhausted laugh. There was a second of silence after that, but then she laughed again, and Augie started laughing too. Soon, Augie said, "So, which one of us do you think is gonna get our second wind first?"
Oh, come on.
Freya just laughed even louder. "Second wind? Kid, I'm on like my 12th wind at this point." That got the whole crowd laughing. It was a weirdly calm moment after
Okay,
all the chaos
nice.
of their fight. But the fight wasn't over yet. Freya's body started sparking faintly with purple electricity. Augie had at least 20 seconds before she teleported somewhere around him, but he didn't do anything. He just stood there, panting, and let Hodera's form slowly shift from his legs to his right arm. Instead of opening his palm to shoot out a beam of ice or making shields or anything, he just waited. "You've crushed it here, Augie," Freya said through exhausted breaths. "I'm sure you'll take the title next year." She stood upright, rolling back her shoulders and clenching her fists. "But I'm taking the gold one more time before it's yours." The
Oh,
second the
here we
purple
go.
light started to overtake her, Augie closed his eyes and just started swinging his fist full force to his upper left. I had no idea how he chose where
Ooh.
to swing. Instead of taking the time to give himself defense, he was banking his entire victory on this one punch. If he missed,
Does he
was
land
so
it?
tired and beaten down that Freya would knock him out for sure. I thought he'd figured something out that I hadn't about Freya, a pattern or something. I asked him later why he decided to swing where he did, and he just laughed and said, "I guessed." It was hard to believe that he basically gambled his win on a guess,
guessed.
but it was obviously a good gamble. Freya teleported to his upper left with her head in the exact spot where Augie's big Hodera-altered fist was swinging.
Yes!
Before she had a millisecond to react, Augie smashed his icy knuckles right into her face. She was blasted across the arena, smashed through an icy track Augie had made earlier, and crashed into the wall before rolling down to the ground and finally staying down. My
Augie
ears were ringing
wins!
for days from the crowd going insane after that.
Yeah!
I don't think I've ever seen Dad go that crazy either.
I shall not argue that fact. I did indeed lose it with excitement. Agama has not only changed the outlook of Biunites across our world, but he has had a
Incredible!
direct impact on my own life and the lives of my family. Seeing him take victory on the grandest stage our world has to offer was immensely exciting.
I can
And
see
it helped our
why.
excitement that much more when, on the winner's podium, Augie mentioned in his victory speech, "And if you want to learn more about how awesome Biunites and natural bonds with them are, make sure to visit the Biunite Safari and Education Center when it opens next month in Unitalia. Freya and I are both going to be there for the grand opening."
It should not have surprised me that he would do something like that,
Of
as Agama
course.
had been very openly promoting the center and his involvement with its creation. But it was very exciting to hear our business be marketed in such a globally publicized manner.
Well, no duh.
Of course, that did also remind me of the potential issue we still needed to handle prior to the Safari opening.
Oh, right.
I knew that
yeah.
whatever had happened to cause the Asian dragon Biunite Pokelani to become so aggressive was
Biunites
very
that went
likely
mad.
not a one-off occurrence. Still, I did not allow that to ruin the experience of celebrating young Agama's victory.
I mean, this is still a big moment for him. 5 years ago, he promised to take the crown as champion, and he did.
Quick little ad
Incredible!
break to remind people that there are only a few days left to get Dresden Oakland's SCP Handbook on Amazon. It'll stay up one extra week on Blurb, but then it'll be gone from there too. So grab your copy fast, but even if you end up missing that, I've got lots of other illustrated novels available, including Vigilants, which this series is a sequel/spin-off to, and I've got a bunch of coloring books available on Amazon as well, with a brand new one coming very soon. Might even be out by the time you're seeing this. Both my online bookstores are linked in the description, but now back into the story. Augie obviously had tons of interviews and photo ops to deal with over the next couple days, but we did
Oh, hey, now I'm actually getting to see him aged up 5 years.
Finally get to spend some time with him. I gave him what I think is the longest hug I've ever given anyone, and he was shaking with excitement. Because of how confident Augie is, it's easy to think he'd just see it as a given that he was gonna win, but he was obviously pretty surprised himself. He told me, "I knew I'd win the championship, but I wasn't positive it'd be this year."
He also informed us in confidence at the time, as it was not yet public knowledge, that in conversation with Freya after the match, she'd told him that it was good he'd bested her this year, as she was planning not to compete the following year.
Yeah, she'd won the title enough times that she wanted to take a year or two off because she and Officer Fuego want to have kids. Hard to fight when you're pregnant. Anyway, Junko acted too cool for a hug, but was basically like,
"Hey, I know it's probably... I know it's just a fictional universe and all, but still. Freya, congratulations on the potential kids that you and Fuego will be having. And now that you're no longer champion, you can take a year or two off to have your kids and raise your kids. And you have a chance to be a full mom."
"I guess I'll give you a congratulations hug." But her face was beet red afterwards. She obviously wanted that hug real bad.
I am not certain that is accurate. You may have been seeing what you expected to see instead of what was truly there.
You seriously don't get how into him she is.
If anything, she is slightly romantically inclined towards him.
Sure, whatever you say. You'll get it eventually. Anyway, we had dinner with Augie and his dad, and the next day got lunch with Freya, Officer Fuego, Chanel, Carter, and Kaya. Even though she'd lost, Freya was still in a really good mood and was happy to see us. While we were with them, Chanel started asking her brother something strange. "Hey, have you warned Dianakaru about..." But she paused and bit her tongue partway through.
She had obviously realized that what she was bringing up was something Trayton had told her in confidence. Something he only knew as a Protection Bureau officer in Unitalia. He replied fairly casually, saying, "It's fine, I can't talk about it, but we're gonna handle it anyway, so there's no reason to alarm anyone." He sort of acted cool, but I could tell he was pretty spooked. You are saying that now only because you now know what he was hiding.
No, I could totally tell.
If you insist.
So what was he hiding?
We didn't think much about it because we were focused on getting home and getting ready for our own grand opening, which, as Agama said, he and Freya would both be attending. It would not just be the two of them either. Very generously donating their time to make a big publicized event out of it, multiple fighters who participated in the famous Bobby Blunt incident were coming together to be the first people to be toured through the safari sector. The patrons would include world-renowned fighters Agama Knight, Freya Sparks, Chadwick Geigar, Flamtatious Stathos, and Wallop Beaton, as well as Chanel, Carter, Trayton, and Kaya. It was intended to be one of the greatest marketing opportunities imaginable, though now part of me wishes we had slightly less publicity on that day.
I mean, any publicity is good publicity, right? I don't really know what that means, but it's a thing people say.
Kinda.
Anyway, Augie was coming to join us early and was going to spend most of that month helping.
I mean, I do agree that some publicity, any publicity is good publicity, but probably not anything that would be like news reports of a death. Yeah, you don't want to be associated with the death of blank or whatever.
Out around the safari, taking some vacation time, and helping build hype for the
someone
launch.
Dying.
Dad and I still got back before him, though, and asked some of the Malejo people working with us if any more weird stuff had happened while we were gone. They said no Biunites had gone as nuts as Pokilani had, but there had been some more weird activity. Some Biunites had
Like
been
what?
wandering into territories they didn't usually go to, and a couple had seemed a bit more aggressive than usual, though not to a point of attacking anyone, just being defensive and standoffish. Dad and I both did a bunch of laps around the safari, both in the safari bus and on foot, but didn't find anything else weird. I did see Malaya flying around more, which was cool, but nothing else unusual. At least, not until the day Augie got back and we did a walk around together. That was when we finally met Bio-Mech Kyle.
Uh-oh. Time to find out who this Kyle is. Is he friend, foe, or what?
Hey, by the way, are you okay? You're being, really quiet. Yeah, sorry, I'm fine. This is all fascinating. I'm just processing, putting some pieces together from things you've said. I'm also honestly trying to distract myself from the fact that I kind of have to go to the bathroom because, honestly, I'm not really sure how to deal with that yet. It's gonna be a bit strange given my current state.
Wait,
Oh.
what?
Yes, that would be a touch uncomfortable. Well, hopefully we can continue to distract you for the time being from that conundrum, though I cannot contribute to this part of the tale, as I was not aware myself until quite recently that it had occurred.
Yeah, Dad, I get it. You're still mad, but at least I figured out what was going on with the Biunites.
Then did nothing to stop it.
So,
yeah,
hold on.
kind of.
What's the full story?
Okay, anyway, so Augie gets to the safari again, and I tell him what's up, and he goes on this big long hike with me to see if we can find anything weird. We spotted Malaya again, and that got us talking about Jensen Malumor. I asked Augie if he thought a Biunite had ever naturally bonded to a crazy killer like Malumor, who'd forced his bond to Malaya with a bond band. Augie said, "No way, you've got to be in touch with your authentic self to bond naturally with a Biunite, and nobody's authentic self is a serial killer. Nobody hurts people for no good reason when they're their authentic selves. Honestly, I feel bad for people like Malumor and even Bobby Blunt. Obviously, I feel more bad for the people they hurt, but everyone's soul is good. You only do stuff like what they did if you're really messed up yourself and super far off from being your authentic self. Imagine the crazy awesome stuff Blunt could have made for good if he wasn't so messed up." I didn't like the idea of feeling bad for Blunt or Malumor, but anytime Augie says something like that, I try to think more about it before I settle on my opinion. I mean, at that time, he'd still never really been wrong about anything. We hiked around for a few hours and weren't finding any weird Biunite activity until we heard an aggressive buzzing sound and a voice in the distance of the forest. We merged with our Biunites and started running towards the sound. We were in the Kolosect region of the Safari sector, where there are a lot of bug Biunites. I couldn't tell from the buzzing which Biunite was acting up, but I was more focused on the voice anyway, and the sound of electricity near it. It was saying, "Just chill out, I'm not gonna hurt you, stop." We dodged around trees until finally I could see the Biunite making the noise. It was the Genghis Moth Biunite Mohu'uha, which is like a big moth with 4 tentacles coming out of its rear. It was lashing those tentacles at someone. Before I saw the person, I saw sparks of green electricity lighting up the woods around them. It was a sort of familiar sight, but it was only when I saw the person it was coming off of that I realized where I'd seen that power before. Trying to ward off the Biunite was a guy a little older than Augie and me, with Bobby Blunt's Bio-Mech attached to his arm. I was on edge the second I saw it.
Wait, hold on. I could have sworn all but one of them exploded, and the only one that didn't, and was frozen and taken into custody. I guess I could be misremembering.
But something about the way this guy spoke did calm me down a little bit. He saw us and was surprised, but not as much as I would have thought. He said,
Hey, gents.
"I know this looks bad, but any chance you can give me a hand? I am not willing to hurt this Biunite, but it doesn't seem to feel the same way about me and my gal Charlie here."
Okay, so this is indeed an alternate Bio-Mech Kayla.
If you're enjoying this and you never watched...
Look, at this point, y'all know I'm bad when it comes to names. I forget names, I forget how to pronounce names, and I can remember characters. I cannot remember names, y'all know that.
Vigilants, you might want to go back and watch that. It's not exactly a similar format, but if you want to know more about these characters, that's a good place to go. And you can jump in at any episode because it's an anthology. But anyway, besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote from Alex Hormozy, and one where, I've said it before, I don't really like calling anyone losers, but I still think outside of that, this quote is very useful to think about. And that is the idea that losers blame other people to feel better, while winners blame themselves to get better. Again, the phrasing of it doesn't completely resonate with me, but I do really like that idea of thinking about what you can do within yourself to improve instead of thinking about how other people have made things harder for you.
I like it.
Ultimately, you can't control what anyone else is doing, but you can look inward and control yourself and your own actions. So I hope that's an inspiring reminder. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday.
Alright everyone, that is going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you next time when we flick back on. Until then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.